Hi, this is Micornus, Phokane, the leader and the founder of the Young Men Empowerment Forum. I want to speak about what wise people do, what wise people do in life. And this is the way maybe to encourage you as a young man to start to learn to behave wisely in your life. But I want to speak briefly and for the next 5 minutes about what wise people do. And I want to speak about this as part one, and I hope that that will help you in your life. That I want to speak about what wise people do is because I want to inject that mindset of being wise as a young man, learning from wise people and doing exactly that, because that will help you in your life and you'll become a better person. What wise men do is they move on. They don't waste time feeling pity for themselves. In other words, when they are encountering challenges in life, because life will throw you with curveballs, life will challenge you. Life will bring the problems in you to an extent that sometimes you feel like giving up and throwing the towel and just giving up and walking away in life. But wise people, they move on sometimes out of situations where they've been there for a very long time, whereby they've been with people or friends or even family members actually for a very long time and lived amongst them. But then situations that would come to separate them with those people, wise people are able actually to come out. And after coming out, they will move on and they don't waste the time actually by feeling sorry for themselves. We have seen people that are actually feeling sorry for themselves in situations that have come as an embarrassment for them. Because there are times when you are, say, connected to somebody, like for an example, you were married maybe to somebody, and now because you've gone through divorce, you feel like it's the end of the life for you. And I want to urge you as a young man to start looking at life positively and say, there's time to come together with people. There's a time to part, and there's time actually to move on. But the problem is that most of the time, when we are connected with people, we feel connected to them fully and permanently. And I want to urge you to understand as a young man that there's nothing permanent in life. So therefore, many things will come and go. And those things that will come and go, some of them will be a disappointment to you. And as it is a disappointment to you, you must be ready to move on. Because if you are not learning the art of moving on, you're going to have a problem of actually sticking to the old things in your life. Remember that life is actually moving forward. Life is dynamic. Life becomes better every day. Life changes every day. So you cannot expect yourself to be at the same place where you were last year. You cannot expect yourself to be with the same people that you hanged around with last year. So therefore, it is very important that you adopt the spirit of moving on. You adopt an attitude of moving on. And when you move on, you don't waste time in feeling pity for yourself. Because sometimes we think that we are connected with people forever. And we think that people don't want us anymore. And if people have walked away from our lives, we feel like we're indebted to them. And I want to urge you as a young man that wise people don't do that. Wise people are able to move on. Wise people have got the mindset of moving on when they are faced with a situation. You might be a divorcee right now, and people have labeled you to become, to say you are a divorcee. People have labeled you to say you are somebody who doesn't have a wife and so on as a young man. Remember this, that you were not born together with your wife. If she has decided to walk away from you, that is her decision, and that decision should not make you to feel pity. That decision should not make you to feel like you're worthless and you cannot do anything anymore. Remember that your life continues even despite of the person that have decided to walk away from you. Because it's people's decision to walk out of our lives, and it is their decisions to come into our lives. And when they've decided to come into our lives, agree for the fact that they will decide also to move out of our lives. And as they do that, don't feel pity for yourself, because wise people will say, I will move on. I'll pick up the pieces and I'll move on and live my life. And don't spend time pitying myself. Because sometimes when you're sitting and pitying yourself, you become depressed. you become very retarded in the sense that you cannot move on anymore because you are actually delaying yourself with gathering thoughts and minds, and that are actually condemning you. You feel like you are not worth it. You feel like people walked away from you because you're not the part. But I want to tell you now that people move out of your life whether you are part or not, whether you are smart or not, because they're not moving out of your life because of you. They're moving out of your life because of them. So therefore, don't blame yourself. Don't point a finger at yourself and start feeling pity for yourself. There are many young men that I've spoken to, and they are in a situation whereby they've gone through separations, divorces. They've gone through the loss of a partner. They've gone through a time where they've been jilted by girlfriends or so on. And these are things that as a young man, you should actually take it to the chin and say, I'm going to live my life. And my life is not my life because it's connected to so and so. When so and so decide to move out of my life, that should not mean that I am not going to live anymore. So I must continue living life that is of God. I must continue living my life because I am actually somebody who is worth it. Remember that God has got a purpose with your life. You've got a mandate of your own in your own life that is not connected to other people. So it is actually very important that you learn an attitude of moving on. You learn an attitude of becoming the person of your own and decide on whether to continue with things or not, but don't sit down and feel pity for yourself. People that have sat down and feel pity for themselves, they've come to a point whereby they actually get depressed. They lock themselves out, separate away from people, and lock themselves in rooms of darkness. And sometimes even get to a point where they decide to commit suicide. It's not worth it. You cannot take your life because people have walked away from you. Remember, wise people never do that. Wise people are actually are able to adopt the spirit of moving on, and therefore not waste time in trying to figure out why people walked out of them. They don't waste time in feeling pity for themselves. They will rise up and say, I know I can make it, and I can actually make connections with other people away from those that walked away from me. So that's what wise people do. And as a young man, I want you to learn that, because that's the attitude that you need to adopt if your life is to be better. I cannot emphasize this enough. Please, as a young man, make sure that you learn to move on. Make sure that you learn not to blame yourself, not to point a finger at yourself. Make sure that you learn not to waste time blaming yourself and making yourself feeling sorry of yourself. Because remember that people are so busy in this life that no one has got actually time to hang around and feel pity for you. There's no one that's having time to actually sit and start worrying about your life. So you need to really look well after yourself and make sure that as a young man, you don't sit and feel pity for yourself, but you rise up out of the ashes and move on and don't feel pity of yourself. I want to end up here today. Your host, Micornus Phokane. I hope that this makes sense to your head. I hope that this drums it to understanding into your life, and you feel you understand this. So your host, Micornus Phokane. Remember very well that we have got the Facebook page, Young Men Empowerment Forum, and the Facebook page, Micornus Phokane. So like those pages and make sure that you also subscribe to our YouTube channel, because there are a lot of materials that we posted there. And as a young man, you can be helped and become a better young man with wisdom. May the good Lord bless you, and allow me to check out right here and say cheers for now.